And Sri Aurobindo speaks of the golden child. I don't know if I read that. I think I should. I suppose the golden child is the truth soul, which follows after the silver light of the spiritual. When it plunges into the black waters of the subconscious, it releases from it the spiritual light and the sevenfold streams of the divine energy, and clearing itself of the stains of the subconscious, it prepares its flight towards the supreme divine, the mother. Would you like to speak a little on the sevenfold streams, Vladimir?
Well, this is the Vedic imagery as the seven rivers, and
Yes.
which create the streams of the truth on each level. The divine is present through these streams or currents of consciousness and power. And even if they are not belonging to that level, as it were, they create that level in a particular way. This is something very mysterious, because these currents we know as Saraswati, Mahi, Ila, these great rivers, supramental rivers. Beyond there are four unnamed rivers, which is of Sat, Chit, Tapas and Ananda, and then there are three rivers of the supermind, which Sri Aurobindo names. By the way, his journey started with this vision of these three rivers. He started to see Lipi, Saraswati, Mahi, and Ila, and he was wondering why these words are coming. And then he looked into the Veda, and he saw them there, and he understood that what they mean. Yeah, and he speaks about this in the secret of the Veda.
Thank you. That's really good. I'd like to continue now with the lines.
I have a question, Narad,
Yes.
for Vladimir. If I want to learn more about the seven streams, which reference would you recommend?
There is a secret of the Veda, and there is the whole chapter on the divine rivers.
Thank you. Thank you.
And these rivers are compared also with portals. It's quite interesting. They are doors, rivers' doors. And they are their portals which are opening the gates towards the streams of the truth. They're kind of currents, and the same way the gateways, as it were. Yeah, these streams connect us to the truth. On the level of being. It's a very mysterious kind of imagery. We see it also in these, in muses. Muses are coming to poets. This kind of current comes to you, and you are in that current. You can create poetry. The right word is coming, the right consciousness. These are the currents of consciousness.
Thank you.
So we'll continue. In the light, flooding thoughts, blank vacancy, interpreting the universe by soul signs, he read from within the text of the without. The riddle grew plain and lost its catch, obscure. A catch is something like a drawback or something concealed or unforeseen, unexpected. So this is a catch. And it also can be something that is cognizant or something aware of suddenly. So this riddle of the world, actually, of the universe, he is interpreting now only by soul signs, because this light is flooding this blank vacancy of thought. Extraordinary. And therefore he can read from within the text of the without. And the riddle grew plain and lost its catch, obscure. A larger luster lit the mighty page. A purpose mingled with the whims of time. A whim is a fancy, a sudden or capricious idea. A meaning met the stumbling pace of chance. And Sri Aurobindo has a couple of definitions of chance, which I will read to you very briefly. Chance is not in this universe. The idea of illusion is itself an illusion. There was never illusion yet in the human mind that was not the concealing shape and disfigurement of a truth. And that is essays from Essays Divine and Human. And the last one also from Essays Divine and Human. What we call chance is a play of the possibilities of the infinite. So now we see that this meaning that he's reading from within on this mighty page, and he sees that there is a purpose that is mingled with these capricious ideas of time, these whims of time. And what is that purpose? Well, it's a meaning that met the stumbling pace of chance, but it's also something to do with fate. And fate revealed a chain of seeing will. I think I've read Fate to you before, or we have read it, that the Indian explanation of fate is karma. Now, this seeing will is extremely important. And I believe we have read that also. But please stop me if we haven't read it or you would like to read it again. So, a conscious wideness filled the old dumb space. Well, this is a silent space, obviously. And in the void, he saw throned the omniscience supreme. So now he can look into the void and he is able to see, as on a throne, this supreme omniscience. The omniscience is universal or infinite knowledge. Synonym, God. He says that mind is not sufficient to explain existence in the universe. Infinite consciousness must first translate itself into infinite faculty of knowledge, or, as we call it from our point of view, omniscience. A will, a hope immense now seized his heart, and to discern the superhuman's form, he raised his eyes to unseen spiritual heights, aspiring to bring down a greater world. To discern something is to perceive by the sight or some other sense, to recognize, to distinguish something. So he has this will, capitalized W, a will, and then a hope, an immense hope, now seized his heart. And to discern the superhuman's form, he raised his eyes to unseen spiritual heights, aspiring to bring down a greater world. So we see this aspiration is what is moving him to bring down the supermental onto earth. Now he continues telling us about this. The glory he had glimpsed must be his home. A brighter, heavenlier sun must soon illume this dusk room with its dark internal stare. The infant soul in its small nursery school, mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned, outgrow its early grammar of intellect and its imitation of earth nature's art, its earthly dialect to God language change, in living symbols study reality and learn the logic of the infinite. He puts it all to us right here, so clearly. A brighter, heavenlier sun must soon illume. That soon illume means light up this dusk room. What is a dusk room? It's poetically, it's a shady or a gloomy room with its dark internal stare. Oh, what a line. Its dark internal stare. The stair is dark that we have to climb. And then he says the infant soul in its small nursery school. And what does it do? It's mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned. And hardly here is barely. Sri Aurobindo gives us an interesting comment to Amal Kiran. I don't know if I read it before, but I'd like to read it to you. You're barely enough instead of the finer and more suggestive hardly falls flat upon my ear. One cannot substitute one word for this context, and repetition or not, it must remain unless a word not only juste, but inevitable comes to replace it. On this point, I may add that in certain contexts, barely would be the right word. As for instance, there is barely enough food left for 2 or 3 meals, where hardly would be adequate, but much less forceful. It is the other way about in this line. Another in this kind of poetry, merely because it means intellectually the same thing, hardly is the most juste in this line. So we see we have a great lesson here, and that lesson is to humbly appreciate every line and every word in Savitri. So he's telling us now what this infant soul has to do in its small nursery school, mid these objects meant for a lesson hardly learned. What does it have to do? It has to outgrow its early grammar of intellect and its imitation of earth nature's art. So this imitation of earth nature's art, very, very interesting. What could that mean? It means that even in art, in music and poetry, we are not here to replicate the nature of Earth's art. We are here to give the world a new view of things. And then he says, its earthly dialect to God language change. Now, dialect, of course, is the manner or style that one expresses oneself in language. It's often used negatively as a form of language that is considered inferior. So this earthly dialect is certainly inferior to God language, and it has to be changed. In living symbols, study reality. Reality here is capitalized, a capitalized R. Have we done reality before, Vladimir?
I think so, we did.
Okay. And learn the logic of the infinite. The logic of the infinite. What is logic, actually? It's a science that investigates the principles governing correct or reliable inference. It can be applied to any branch of knowledge or study. It is convincing forcefulness, inexorable truth, or persuasiveness. And we've done the infinite before, so we'll continue on. The ideal must be nature's common truth. Well, the ideal is capitalized, as is nature. So Sri Aurobindo is speaking to us of this ideal, this model of perfection or excellence. So this ideal must be the common truth of nature. It cannot be other. The body illumined with the indwelling God. The heart and mind feel one with all that is. A conscious soul live in a conscious world. Oh, how we must become conscious, and how the world must become conscious, because we become conscious. It can't be the other way. The world cannot become conscious without each of us becoming conscious. Impossibility. We are the world. As through a mist, a sovereign peak is seen. The greatness of the eternal spirit appeared. Exiled in a fragmented universe, amid half semblances of diviner things. Yes, it's very sad, isn't it? That the eternal spirit is exiled in this fragmented universe, amid half semblances. A semblance is an appearance or a likeness, a resemblance to something, amid half semblances of diviner things. So now he sees. These now could serve no more his regal turn. Semicolon. The immortal's pride refused the doom to live, a miser of the scanty bargain made between our littleness and bounded hopes and the compassionate infinitudes. Oh, it's so beautiful. These now could serve his regal turn no more, because he's already read the text from within. He's already seen all of these things that we've been reading about. He's become a conscious soul living in a conscious world. And he sees the greatness of the eternal spirit appear. And he sees that it is exiled in a fragmented universe. Well, certainly this universe is fragmented. Amid half semblances of diviner things. These now could serve no more his regal turn. Yes, of course, this This is what we're all feeling, even in our smallest minds, our weakest aspiration. We feel that this world can no longer serve not only his regal turn, but our aspiration,
And,
our
and
surrender.
can I ask about regal turn? What does it really mean, turn, in this language? Regal turn.
Yes, it means his regal direction.
Direction, yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Also,
Yes.
these, I'm not still able to comprehend these.
I cannot hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, these now could serve no more. So these I'm not able to comprehend. These.
Yes. These have semblances
Oh, okay.
of diviner things. These could no more serve his regal turn, his regal direction.
Mm.
The immortal's pride. This is a very interesting word. The immortal's pride. So pride cannot be understood negatively here because it's the immortal's pride. It refuses the doom to live a miser of the scanty bargain made between our littleness and our bounded hopes, obviously, and the compassionate infinitudes. So he refuses this doom to live like a miser of the scanty bargain made. Scanty is small in amount, barely sufficient, meager, inadequate, deficient in extent or size. So it's a scanty bargain that we have made between our littleness and our bounded hopes. And most important, and the compassionate infinitudes. And he capitalizes infinitudes. Sri Aurobindo does use it a number of times in Savitri. It means simply an immeasurably large quantity, number or extent, infinite, boundless.
But compassionate in a way that they are not interfering. And because of that, we are left to this kind of smallness of our existence, because they are not imposing themselves in a way.
Yes, it's a very, very important point because Sri Aurobindo is known perhaps amongst many people mostly for his compassion as the avatar. We have the flower Sri Aurobindo's compassion. And certainly I have felt that compassion many, many times. It is love with the widest understanding. I believe also Mother said that Buddha had this compassion and he brought it to earth. So we continue. His height repelled the lowness of earth's state, a wideness discontented with its frame, resiled from poor ascent to nature's terms, the harsh contract spurned, and the diminished lease. Oh, that's a little challenging, so we have to look at it. Okay, his height, he's an avatar now, repelled the lowness of earth's state. Repelling, yes, of course, he would repel it. There is a wideness in him. It's a wideness discontented with its frame. We can even understand that as an earthly frame because he has taken a human body. Resiled. Now, there's a statement by Sri Aurobindo on this word itself. Interestingly, It is a perfectly good English word, meaning originally to leap back, rebound like an elastic. So to draw back from, recoil, retreat. In military language, it means to fall back from a position gained or to one's original position. But it is specially used for withdrawing from a contract, agreement, previous statement. How powerful. You see, one word, Sri Aurobindo would take the time to define that to someone.
Something like withstand also, maybe. Huh?
No,
No?
it's not withstand. No, it's to go back from it, to draw back from it,
To draw back.
to even
Because
retreat from it.
a resilience is from here or not desired? Most probably it is from here.
I think resilience is from, yes, resilience is from resilience, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Pardon?
I was just thinking that withstand also is something not only static, also it has a certain power, yes, to kind of to not to go in that direction, as it were, and because of that, of course.
Yes. But it is not as strong as resile, because if you withstand something, you are able to take it.
Yeah, endure. Yes, correct.
Yes. So then he says that this harsh contract of nature and humanity is spurned, and the diminished lease. Well, to spurn something is to scorn it, to reject it contemptuously or disdainfully. So the harsh contract is spurned. And the diminished lease. Why is it a diminished lease? Well, a lease is given during a period in exchange for some specified compensation. The diminished lease is what we are experiencing on Earth. We have, from the moment we are born, we begin to die. It's a diminished lease. There is no guarantee of eternal life as yet. So the harsh contract spurned and the diminished lease. Then he tells us something very beautiful in another voice. Only beginnings are accomplished here. Our basis matter seems alone complete. Of course, we know that matter is by no means fundamentally real. It's simply a structure of energy. But our basis matter seems to us alone complete because we only look at the form. We're unable to see behind the form the truth of each being. If we could see each other's souls, so much would change. And then he says, continuing this, only beginnings are accomplished here on earth. Our basis matter seems alone complete. And what else? Well, an absolute machine without a soul. But notice he says here in the previous line, he uses the word seems. And again now, in this line, or all seems a misfit of half ideas. Or we saddle with the vice of earthly form, a hurried, imperfect glimpse of heavenly things, guesses and travesties of celestial types. Well, certainly, it seems to a great percentage of the population that this earth and humanity is an absolute machine without a soul. Or then there's a full stop. Or all seems a misfit of half ideas. Or we saddle with the vice of earthly form a hurried, imperfect glimpse of heavenly things, guesses and travesties of celestial types. So the word saddle is interesting. It means to burden or to encumber or even to charge. So are we burden or load with the vice of earthly form what? Well, a hurried, imperfect glimpse of heavenly things. And what are those heavenly things that we have a hurried and imperfect glimpse of? Guesses and travesties of celestial types. A travesty is an exaggerated or grotesque imitation. We'll go a little bit more and then close for the night because we've done a lot today. Here, of course, I'm speaking on earth. Here, chaos sorts itself into a world, a brief formation drifting in the void, apings of knowledge, unfinished arcs of power, flamings of beauty into earthly shapes, love's broken reflexes of unity swim, fragment mirrorings of a floating sun. Well, yes, chaos is here because there are forms, beings on earth who enjoy this chaos. They don't want to see a collective or universal harmony. And so chaos here sort of just sorts itself into a world. It's a brief formation that drifts in the void. Apings of knowledge. Apings are imitations, mimics. Apings of knowledge. Unfinished arcs of power. Look, he's telling us all these things here, that these heavenly things, these celestial types, for us, we just guess at them, and they're travesties, exaggerated imitations. And then he says chaos sorts itself into a world. It's just a brief formation drifting in the void. Apings of knowledge, unfinished arcs of power, flamings of beauty into earthly shapes. Love's broken reflexes of unity swim, fragment mirrorings of a floating sun. Oh, it's so beautiful, isn't it?
It reminds me of the situation in Auroville. This is a description of Auroville in a way.
Ouch, ouch. Carry on, carry on.
It's a beautiful description. Chaos sorts itself into a world, a brief formation drifting in the void, apings of knowledge, exactly, unfinished arcs of power, exactly, flamings of beauty into earthly shapes, love's
Yes.
broken reflexes of unity, exactly,
Oh,
swim.
yes.
Yeah, it's all
And they're just fragment mirrorings of a floating sun.
exactly.
Oh, so fantastic.
Mm.
All right, I'll read a few more lines, and then there's a nice place to end. A packed assemblage of crude, tentative lives are pieced into a tessellated whole. Well, Orville again, sorry. A packed assemblage. Assemblage is a gathering. A packed assemblage of crude, tentative lives are pieced into a tessellated whole. Well, tessellated is almost like a checkered whole. You know, the checkered board having the different squares, the chessboard, and it is arranged in or having the appearance of a mosaic. So these crude tentative lives are pieced into a tessellated whole. And then there's a full stop, and he says, there is no perfect answer to our hopes. There are blind, voiceless doors that have no key. Thought climbs in vain and brings a borrowed light, cheated by counterfeits, sold to us in life's mart. Our hearts clutch at a forfeited heavenly bliss. We'll continue next week this powerful passage. Namaste.